Good evening and welcome again to another program of Women to Women. I am Carol Paz, your hostess for tonight, and with me I have Mrs. Lori Baldwin, who will be with us in just a moment as our very special guest. But I'd first of all like to thank our sponsors, Carper Nevada LLC of Carson City, Nevada, for its fine imports of Portuguese olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and international teas, as well as Vito Basque, home of Pete's famous chorizo. So without further timing, let's turn to Lori and welcome Lori very much. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Lori, it's a treat to have a guest who's also a teacher, as I am. And I know that for most of our guests, this is probably the first time that they've ever been on television. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But I just want you to know that as a mother of four, I think you can handle anything.
I hope so. I've definitely been put to the test.
All right. Lori, where did you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from right here in Nevada. I grew up in a small town called Mesquite, Nevada, in southern Nevada, about an hour east of Las Vegas.
Okay, so you're from the other half of the state.
The other half of the state, where it's very hot.
Very hot. And isn't there a nice difference here in northern Nevada with the climate?
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a distinct change, not only of environment, but especially of climate. And when I go to Las Vegas or I'm down in the southern portion, I always say, I love the state of Nevada, but it's such a joy to come back to this Sierra Mountain range.
It is. It is.
So, Laura, tell me, when you grew up in Mesquite, did you have brothers and sisters that were part of the household?
Oh, absolutely. I have 3 brothers, no sisters.
Okay.
So
you are the only girl.
The only girl.
Are you the youngest of those 4 children?
Actually, second oldest.
Second.
I have an older brother and 2 younger.
So you had to learn to hold your position firmly with brothers.
Pretty much, yeah. I definitely did.
You know, what do brothers teach us as females, as sisters, do you think? How are they helpful in helping us to grow up?
You know, they teach us a lot about just being ourselves. It seems that especially brothers are not afraid to be themselves around us and to show us who they are.
Okay.
And I think they make it okay for us as women, as girls, to be ourselves.
And I think that's a neat thing to say, to recognize on the part of males. I grew up with an older brother who is so much older that I never really got to know him. My sister and I were like a second family. So for you to grow up with 3 brothers, that you say, this is his personality, that's his personality, it encourages you and helps you to find out who you really are amongst not only them, but in the family as a whole.
Absolutely.
Who'd you find yourself to be?
Definitely the princess.
Now, you mean they kind of coddled you? They protected you?
No, but my parents did.
Okay, so in other words, what types of situations came up between you and your brothers where your parents would actually have to step in and say, okay, guys, Lori's a girl, that's enough, or something to that effect?
You know, just any time they would start roughhousing or, things like that, they'd always step in and, kind of stop it for any of us.
For any of you, okay.
But, little things, for instance, they'd go to football practice. I had dance lessons and piano lessons and
different types of activities.
It was a lot of it, yeah.
Did you support their football activities by going to the games?
Oh, absolutely.
Did they turn around and support your activities by coming to your recitals, your music recitals?
Absolutely. It was just, we were a family and we support each other, and that's just how it was. Absolutely.
And I think that stability has a lot to do with who we become as adults, don't you?
Oh, it has everything to do with it.
Yes. Okay, so as you're growing up in this family of brothers, did your parents put a focus for you on education for all of you?
Absolutely. It was just, they let us have our freedom to, to find out who we were and what we wanted to become.
What were some of the subjects that you really liked when you were in school?
Oh, which ones didn't I like?
You liked them all.
I really did. I really loved them all. In fact, my mom told me my 3rd grade teacher, she went into a parent conference, just said, oh, I love teaching Lori because she loves to learn. I just loved everything about school. I always have.
And were you able to help your brothers as you were growing up did they come to you for some types of help with homework or with projects or with discussion of an idea?
Not so much with me, but definitely, my parents helped us a lot. And it's interesting because as I've gone on to get my master's degree, now 2 others of my brothers have also had that direction.
You were influential.
Yeah, and that's just, how we as a family work.
Yes. So when did this idea of teaching really come to you? Some of us as women, as little girls, as young ladies entering middle school or high school, we become involved in a lot more curricular activities. And some of those activities encourage us, and some of them kind of turn us off to what we were thinking we might like to do, either because they're really tough, they're really rough, there's too much competition, all kinds of reasons. What helped you decide that teaching was an area that you really had a passion for?
Actually, my 5th grade teacher, she was just one of those amazing women that would light up the classroom the minute she'd step into it. And because of that, she made me love school even more than I already did, and realized that teaching was where it's at. That's what I wanted to do.
When you say teaching is where it's at, what do you mean by that?
I guess it just means that that's, for me, where I want to make my impact in the world. That's where I want to have my influence.
Well, let me ask you this then. As a teacher, you certainly are a power tool, a power instrument in a classroom. So keeping that in mind, let's go back to when you were a grade school student. And your 5th grade teacher definitely had an impact upon you in the way she presented the materials and the way she was as a person herself. Up until that point, had you appreciated the other teachers, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, kindergarten? Do you remember them as well?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it's fun to think about because there's things about each teacher I've had that I remember very specifically. And I remember in kindergarten putting on a little kindergarten play for all the parents. And I remember in 2nd grade, my teacher was amazing. She was from Britain. And
from England, okay.
From England. And so about once a week, she'd pull us down a little corner and teach us and show us books and teach us about England. And what a wonderful place that is.
Yes.
It was just, and would send us home with visions of castles and kings and queens.
And the opportunity to one day go there for yourself and see.
Absolutely.
How important were books in your family as you were growing up?
Oh, books were everything. I grew up in one of those families where, we had a lot of books, and every week we were at the library getting new books, and just books were everything.
Who read to you at home?
Both of my parents.
And your brothers too, maybe?
Not so much. My oldest brother's only 2 years older than me.
Okay.
So we were all very close within 6 years. But my parents definitely read to each of us a lot.
Was that kind of a ritual when you went to bed or when you were not feeling so well and you had to stay home at school? How did they incorporate, at what places in the house or during what times of the day in the home do you remember being read to?
Just mostly at night. My mom, that was our favorite thing is, we'd all squeeze in tight and my mom would read us a story.
In the same bed?
And then...
Same space?
Yep, exactly. And then it was, off to bed, and we'd always beg her for more, but nope, it's past bedtime, you gotta go to bed,
I can remember also as a child that a new book, just one single golden book is what they were called, as a birthday gift or as a Christmas gift was a treasure. We didn't get 3, 4, or 5 books, we got a book. And they were hardbound, and they had the neatest pictures in them. So I think that books, not only do they open up a whole new doorway of imagination for a child, but words become important.
Absolutely.
And conquering those words, sounding out those words, is a brand new area of life that we hadn't thought about before.
Absolutely.
So when you went on, where did you go to college?
I started going to college at Snow College in Utah, a little tiny junior college. But then I transferred here to UNR and got my bachelor's degree and went on to get my master's through UNR. So,
Now, that's a lot compacted into just a short sentence, okay?
yeah, it is.
So, when you came to the University of Nevada here in Reno, you went through your student teaching experience there?
Yes.
And student teaching can be quite challenging.
Yes, it can.
You know, you're out of the classroom, you're away from books, and you are joining a cooperating teacher, so to speak, in her or his classroom to eventually take over for a period of time.
Absolutely.
When you went into that first classroom as a student teacher, how many kids' faces did you see? What was that classroom like?
We had 24 students, and it was a 4th grade classroom. And it was like magic to me to be in the classroom as the teacher. But it was also daunting.
Daunting, very daunting. What were some of the challenges that immediately you knew you had to face with a brand new classroom of 24 little faces that to this point you really didn't know too well? And the expectations from the cooperating teacher are one thing. Your expectations from the university are another set of guidelines. So what did you realize that with your abilities and your talents, you had to put together fairly quickly for this class?
You know, I think the biggest thing I learned right off is to be myself. I went in, you know, trying to be the perfect teacher with the perfect lesson plans and the perfect everything, which was good. But then, you know, after about a week, my cooperating teacher kind of pulled me aside and she said, "You need to loosen up, you know, and just enjoy what you're doing.
Yes.
You know, smile and enjoy the kids and enjoy being here."
Yes.
And that was about the best advice she could have given me.
Just be yourself. And that had to trigger almost, maybe not recognizing it in the very beginning, what your brothers had been doing with you all along, letting you develop as their sister.
Absolutely.
Just becoming who you were, who you're going to be, and it was fine with them.
Yes.
They deal with you every day from morning until night. Okay, this is Lori, we've got to deal with her today.
Exactly, exactly.
And that is good advice because we tend to think that there must be a perfect way to approach a classroom. I mean, teachers have certain characteristics about them.
Absolutely.
Have you noticed?
Oh, definitely.
What are some of those characteristics that teachers seem to have? They can be annoying to others, but they have to have a strong sense of what do you think it takes in the classroom to become a good teacher?
It definitely takes a strong sense of self.
Self? Okay.
You have to know what you like and also be able to see what the kids like and make it work.
And by your identifying the importance, I don't want to put self over everybody else, but to know that there is a self that's acceptable with the children and for the children gives them a sense of self-worth that you're passing on to them. What's another characteristic?
A sense of you need to know that you're making a difference.
Yes, yes. And we're going to stop right there because that's going to take us right into the second half of this program, that you're doing it. You're doing it with the family and outside. We'll be right back in just a moment.
How was school today?
Cool, we learned what to do in case there's an emergency.
Oh, will you show me?
Yeah, and if there is an earthquake, then you get under your desk, duck, cover, and hold. And when the shaking stops,
we evacuate the school just like a fire drill.
I'm glad you both know what to do in case of an emergency, but I'd still be worried.
You're supposed to check the phone, radio, or TV, and they'll tell you what to do.
Make a plan.
Assemble a kit.
Stay informed.
And be ready.
Are you looking for a healthier lifestyle? A more nutritious diet? Do you care about quality? If your answer is yes, or if you are just curious, come into Villa Basque Deli and Cafe right here in Carson City, Nevada. Discover fine Portuguese extra virgin olive oils, vintage balsamic vinegars, and a wide assortment of international health teas provided by distributor Carpa Nevada LLC. In addition to these terrific items, Villa Basque is also the home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, handmade on the premises from Pete's secret family recipe. Satisfy your culinary curiosities. Don't delay.
Working together.
We can protect your home.
Replace that old shingle roof with a fire-resistant alternative and keep it and your rain gutters clean.
Do the same to your deck and consider installing screening in open areas underneath.
Also, stack your firewood at least 30 feet from your home.
One ember can destroy your home. Take our advice and your home can survive.
Will your community survive?
Visit livingwithfire.info for more tips to save your home.
And welcome back, everyone, to the second portion of Women to Women. We are interviewing Lori Baldwin, who is a teacher, a mother of 4, and we've barely scratched the surface. And Lori, I want to come back right away because we were talking about, before the break, characteristics of teachers, and I think you've identified very important concepts of self-worth in the classroom. When you have it for yourself, you pass it on to your students.
Absolutely, you do.
And I think that you have a very strong identity point here with liking what you teach, because what you're teaching to others comes across as either just a chore, a drudgery, or it's something that excites you. And when it excites you, it excites them.
It most certainly does. And it's fun to see something you become passionate about, for the students to become passionate about it as well.
What about the sense of organization in the classroom? How important is that?
Essential.
Essential.
You can't do it if you're not organized. And I'd say also a sense of knowing the students. You just have, and it becomes a very intrinsic thing where you know those students and you know what they're going to ask before they ask it.
Yes, yes.
So that you're ready to answer their questions. It becomes almost second nature.
It's almost as if you become, if you're the father in that elementary, if you're the teacher, you become the father, the daddy in that elementary classroom to a lot of students, in the sense that intrinsically you hear what they're going to say. Sometimes my students would have called me Mommy, because they, they're so used to spending that kind of time with you. And what that name that they give to you besides your professional name is saying they're very comfortable with you and they trust that you know them. Children don't give you that trust unless they feel it. And once you set that tone, when they come in from the bus, they come in from a family, they could have come in from all kinds of different experiences. But when they see your face and you're at that doorway and you greet them with that smile, you greet them with a genuine sign of welcome, they're yours for the next 6-7 hours. And how you work with them, what you encourage them, how you discipline them also has a long way in going what they're going to become as in your case, a 6th grader or a 5th grader as they move up 1 year. You're giving them something very special, and you want them to feel that way about that classroom experience with you.
It's very true.
How important do you think it is for a teacher to be a parent at the same time as they're a teacher? You have 4. Your children are how old right now?
5, 4, 2, and 1.
So you are certainly qualified, to work with children. Now, do you think that your parenting skills transfer right over into the classroom?
Well, more so for me because I'm not currently teaching.
Okay.
It's been a transfer of my teaching skills into the home.
All right, reverse.
And I rely on that every day.
How so?
For instance, one of the best pieces of advice my husband gave me when we first got our children in our home, I had no idea what to do, even though I'd been a teacher. How do you manage the children and make the meal and get the laundry folded and all the daily tasks?
Yes.
And my husband very lovingly said, Lori, lesson plan it like you would at school. And I took
That's the way to fix it. That's how he'd fix it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was brilliant. And so I went to my computer, pulled off my lesson plans from teaching, inserted what I needed, And it's been great ever since.
Do they call you teacher or mommy at home?
Definitely, Mom. And that just has become our daily schedule, our daily routine.
Now, in our previous conversation prior to the show, you indicated that you also have an administrative degree.
Yes.
Where did you find time to do this?
Actually, right before we got our children.
Right.
I finished, it was crazy. I actually took 5 master's degree classes to finish my degree in May and got our children in June. So,
Now, your children are adopted,
yes.
and you didn't get all 4 at the same time, did you?
No,
Okay.
we got the oldest, and then as they were each born, they've come to us. So
How wonderful, how beautiful.
it's been incredible.
And I have to ask you, why did you think an administrative degree was so important to get?
Well, I wanted my master's degree, and I considered getting a master's in elementary education, just furthering my degree.
Right.
But then, as I thought about it, I wanted to be able to not only impact the classroom as I could as a teacher, but to also impact other teachers and to help them become the teachers that they can become
As an administrator.
as an administrator.
Now, have you served in that capacity as of yet?
No, I've gone through internships and things like that.
Okay.
But no, I haven't actually worked as an administrator.
Now, when you speak about an internship, perhaps some of our viewing audience are not quite sure what that entails.
Oh.
Before you can become an administrator, the same as before you can become a teacher, you have a period of preparation.
Yes.
And so, where did you do your administrative internship?
Actually, I was really fortunate. I did my internship with the administration at Brookfield, a private school in Reno, that proved to be wonderful.
And how do you mean that?
They were very patient with me as I was learning, but they also were very trusting and valued my judgment as decisions were made and as the school, needed decisions made. They valued what I had to say and the input I had.
And also that's saying to them, can this young woman make sound decisions under these set of circumstances, under these conditions? What will her decision-making process be like? Let's hear it. Let's think it through. So for them, they're both sides of the coin there. They're evaluating your thinking, but as you're evaluating the circumstances and the decisions for the student body, the teacher staff. So coming to the conclusion of our interview here, Lori, do you think it's necessary for administrators to be teachers in the classrooms first, or could they go straight through a program such as 4 years of teachers college, getting their master's, going on to get their administrative degree, and then walk right into a school system and be hired as an administrator without that classroom experience? Because it does happen.
It does.
What are your thoughts about that? How do you feel about that?
And it does happen, and I feel that that's unfortunate because they miss out on so much valuable training that comes from just on-the-job training.
Comes from kids.
That comes from working with children.
Yes.
And comes from working alongside other teachers, not above them, but alongside them. And comes from doing the day-to-day tasks that a teacher has to do.
And we're in the trenches a lot.
Always.
I think that the soldiers could identify with this, the military personnel probably, because some of the grundiest, longest, most difficult, perspiring activities that you have to do is what molds you into that personality of someone who loves, who cares, who commits. I can't think of not having those qualities in a classroom because the commitment is usually 9 months or 10 months out of the year. And those students depend upon you, as does the staff, as does the administrative staff, to carry out those responsibilities. And unless you know what those responsibilities are on a daily basis, how can you imagine them as an administrator?
You can't. It would be, I couldn't imagine stepping into an administrative role not having had the classroom experience.
I want to ask you just one final question. What's the best lesson, the most useful or practical lesson that a student has taught you?
I love that question. I think the lesson I learned, and I was taught it in such a sweet way, the lesson I learned is to let them enjoy learning. And it was taught by one of my little kindergarten boys, who we were having free reading time, and this became a daily occurrence for almost a week. Have our daily free reading time, and him and a couple boys would find some great book on bugs or on dinosaurs, whatever for the day. And they would huddle and they would be sounding out the words and looking at the pictures, doing everything they needed to do. And I'd say, okay, let's put our books away, time to move on. And he would look at me so distraught and say, but Mrs. Baldwin, I need to study.
That's what I'm here to do.
Exactly. And it killed me for him to have to put that book away. And I'd reassure him that he could take the book home or he could read it the next day. But
he was into bugs. He was into dinosaurs.
He was into whatever for the day, and he was into it.
And you're so right. His expression, his verbal expression, facial expression, his whole body language gave you an answer that you desperately needed to have as a teacher. It's a reinforcement that students do for us. They tell us, I'm thrilled with what I'm being allowed to do. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Absolutely.
And that's
yes.
It's the impact that teachers have are lasting, and we can choose to make them such a positive experience in the classroom, or we can choose the other. And I would certainly hope that no one remains in a classroom who doesn't have the best interests of their students at heart. So I want to thank you very much for coming, for sharing. We wish you the very best after you've raised these 4 wonderful kids, and applaud you for staying home as a mother, the conditions that allow you to do that, so that when you do go back in the classroom, you're one heck of a teacher again.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, and we thank our audience so much for being with us tonight. We thank our sponsors, Carpenter Nevada LLC and Villa Basque Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous chorizo. Have a good evening.
Hi, I'm Genevieve Frederick, founder and executive director of Pets of the Homeless.
Pets of the Homeless is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization that provides pet food and veterinary care to the homeless and less fortunate in local communities.
We're a national organization with over 200 collection sites across the United States, one in Australia and a few in Canada. Our national organization, since 2008, we've collected almost 50 tons of pet food that has been distributed through various organizations across the country, like food banks, homeless shelters, and soup dining rooms. With donations from the public, we are able to provide these kinds of wellness clinics across the country. Since 2008, our wellness clinics have provided over 2,500 animals with shots and medical care.
I'm Dr. Woody Allen. I'm a semi-retired veterinarian in Carson City, and I have worked with the Pets of the Homeless for about 4 or 5 years now. And when Genevieve Frederick started the program, our hospital was the first hospital to help her with collecting dog food and finding people that needed our help. On this website, you'll be able to find sources where you can get food on a regular basis if you need it.
With donations from the public, we're able to provide homeless shelters with crates, bowls, cleaning materials, so that homeless with pets can come into homeless shelters and get the services that they need to get out of homelessness.
If you are in need of food, supplies, or services for your pet, or would like to donate or volunteer, visit petsofthehomeless.org.